Um, so I've been interested in the financial markets since I can remember. I remember being in my 20s, living in New York City, and really wanting to get involved. But this is way before the internet age. I'm a little bit older than a lot of people. Um, so I used to go to like all these because I lived right near Wall Street, so they had all these, different types of workshops, and they were all basically scams. Kind of the same thing now online. The majority of them are scams, but they were in person. And a lot of them were saying that it's required to have $25,000 to start a day trading account. This is mainly equities, right? And at that point, I just couldn't even fathom that. So I started learning a little bit on my side, and I was investing, and then kind of life got in the way. I went traveling. And finally, around 7 years ago, a little bit more, I've always had the itch. I was like, I've constantly been playing with it a little bit here, but I really wanted to dive in completely and to day trade. And I also run a travel blog, a travel site, and that I've been doing for almost over a decade. And so you get to see travel bloggers, and there was another person who was also day trading. And so I kind of knew, because I'm a travel blogger, about the lifestyle. And I was like, wow, this guy is actually doing what I want to do. So I started chatting with him. And then 7 years ago, almost a little bit more, I decided to just go full on. It was for my 40th birthday, which is coming up in a month. I decided to just go full in, but for futures. So I was kind of on the cusp of penny stocks
Yeah.
or futures. And then when I talked to him, I just totally love the whole idea of futures, and you don't need $25,000. You can start with $1,000 as your account. However, not counting the education, obviously. So that was a much better fit for me, and also so understanding, once I started to really understand what it was about, I just knew that that was more of what I wanted. And then I just dove in learning and studying, and I joined the academy and all this other stuff, and now I've been doing it for 7 years. So it's long
Nice.
story short.
Yeah, no, that's okay. That's the thing, is it's kind of hard to get
Mhm.
all of it out in like 5 minutes, like your whole life story.
Yeah,
Where do you
for
live right
sure.
now, or do you travel everywhere, or do you have a home base?
Yeah, well, I'm an expat. I live in Guatemala right now. So, yeah, we've been here for a while, but we travel a lot with my family. So that also makes it very easy to just, all you need is an internet connection, really.
Hmm.
Um, yeah. So basically, day trading for beginners is kind of like what I focus on, but I call myself the trader chick, and that's my site and everything. Um, so that's kind of like what I am. I started the trader chick after having quite a lot of challenges come up, especially I want to say being a woman, but I don't want to focus on that. But women just invest in the financial world, we do things a little bit differently, and there isn't enough information in that respect. But I
Yeah.
also found overall for beginners, there's so many people that are interested in day trading, and there's really no one speaking directly to beginners. So when I first started the Trader Jig, I wanted to only focus with women. And then a lot of men started coming to me because I was speaking in such basic beginner terminology that they were really enjoying that. And I'm like, you know what? I don't think it's only women. I think it's people in general who don't get a lot of concepts, and there's not much out there. And that's what I started to really focus on and help. And that's what I love to do. But I also trade futures, and I teach that as well and stuff like that.
Gotcha. So yeah, so tell us a little bit about what is it you trade now? What's your focus?
100% E-minis futures, which is the ES mini, which is the index for the
Yep.
SPY, the S&P, and that's it. That's the only one I like. There's lots of futures, crude, there's gold, there's all these, things you could do, but it's really good if you start as a trader, actually in any instrument, equities, forex, crypto, you name it. It's really good to just focus on one thing at first to master it.
Mm.
And the ES Mini just kind of covers a lot. I don't day trade stocks. I really enjoy them for my long term portfolio. But that's an investment. It's very different
Hmm.
way
Yeah,
of doing things.
totally. No, that makes sense.
Hmm.
That's really cool that you focus just on the E-minis, and we'll talk a little bit more about that in a moment. So just to clarify, nothing else, just the E-minis. That's it.
Right. Well, it's kind of funny though, because what I do is, like, for instance, I teach beginners is you have to read the charts, the markets, right? The financial, and it's the same language for no matter what you're going to trade. Understanding reversal patterns, divergences, resistance, support areas. And yesterday I was invited on a show to analyze stocks, and I told the guy, I'm like, I'm a futures trader. He's like, yeah, but just have fun with it. And again, it was for day trading, so it was all about the charts. And I was like, this is kind of fun. So I was like, all of a sudden the itch kind of came back. I totally only focus on futures, but as maybe for like some swing trading, and I'm starting to, because I understood that, wait, everything I do with the futures can be applied anywhere. So I might be expanding a little bit out.
Okay.
But after like 7 years of focusing, I really recommend to focus on one thing to start. Totally.
Well, that's, I love that. That's a perfect approach because that's very similar to what I did. I kind of very similar path, but I just started trading the E-minis and only the E-minis. So the exact opposite of you, meaning I started trading stocks and options initially and only focused on that one. I didn't do Forex, didn't know anything about commodities, didn't know anything about futures. And then, I just started trading futures about like 6 months ago. So my question to you is, what do you think about the new micro minis? Have you heard of those?
Yeah, I haven't done much research on them, I'll be honest with you, because I feel like sometimes there's all these new things coming up all the time. It's kind of the same with technology. I don't think I'm ready to dive into really learning it because a lot of times it's such a big learning curve. So I honestly can't give too much information on that.
Okay, that's fair.
How about you? What are you doing for futures? What do you trade with futures?
Yeah, same thing, just the ES. That's really it right now.
Oh, okay.
Yep. There's other things, like you mentioned, there's so many, but I trade, yeah. I love trading the SPY. I love trading the general market. And it does give you a good flow for just kind of like what the market's going to do the next day. I only trade them at night. So there's not that much movement.
Oh.
So it's a little
slower. Very slow.
But it's good because I pretty much just get into a trade. I do a bracket order and then I go to bed, and either hits my stop or hits my target. And that's pretty much it.
Right.
And normally, like around 4 or 5 a.m., it'll do something while I'm asleep,
right,
which is good. But as far as trading, I haven't traded it intraday yet. During market open, I've only traded the SPY intraday. I haven't done E-minis. Not that it's any different at all. I don't know.
Well, the movement is very different. It's super different. Like, it's pretty fast, and that's why I kind of enjoy it because I consider myself more a scalper, even though I hate that word. Mm-hmm. Because I only go for like 3 minutes, maximum 15 minutes. I'm like stressing. So I really like the small. I also go in brackets. I always have my stop and my target always there because I have lost so much money by not having a stop, and I think that's a very common problem that all traders, especially in the beginning, have. But still, I like to just do it fast. I like to go for the 1 point, super quick, boom, boom, boom. You could just add contracts, and they still keep the same short, non as stressful.
Oh, I love it. Well, so let's dive in it. Let's dive into that. Might as well start talking about it. So when you're trading, you're doing a tick chart then, I'm assuming?
Yes, 610 tick chart, exactly. And my bars are also high-low tick charts. Tick bars as well.
Oh, yeah. So you do bars, not candlesticks.
No, and I prefer the tick bars. Again, it's a 610 chart and it's a 610 bar. So basically, a lot of people don't understand what ticks are for that particular thing. It's transactions. With the bar, it's cool in that respect because on each bar, it has to be 610 transactions, right? Mm-hmm. So with a time chart, let's say you're sitting for 5 minutes and there's only 10 transactions, and yet with a tick chart, it's 610. The transactions to me makes it feel more real because that's the real live action, not so much at time. Sometimes 610 transactions can happen in a microsecond, sometimes in an hour. And what you were focusing on is people, is the movement. So that's why I really enjoy tick charts a lot more in that respect, mm-hmm. because it's more realistic. It's live. It's the real people.
Yeah, I can respect that. Okay. Makes sense. And when you're trading, you mentioned you're kind of going for a point, and like 15 minutes is kind of your max time frame. How'd you find that was your comfort?
Well, it's not really 15 minutes. I get crazy, ridiculously stressed after 5 minutes. So I like to go for really short ones. I have my setups. I have all my green lights. I have about 10 trade setups that I really learned. And this is a lot of back testing. I mean, months and months, sometimes even over a year of back testing certain trades.
Mm-hmm.
I like to go, I'm very conservative, like ridiculously conservative. If I see any sort of divergence, I don't go near the market, even though it could still be trending in the right direction. Um, so at the one point in a future, and an ES mini, if it's volatility and if it's just changed trends, it's really quick. So the chances of you sitting around waiting too long are pretty rare. So that makes it kind of good. You could just get your 1 point, and 1 point is $50. If you have 10 contracts, it's $500. And it's usually, so my main focus is I like the beginnings of something, right? Beginning of a new trend, either going up, going down, or for instance, if it was stuck in like this consolidation or with a strong resistance or support area, it breaks through. That's a new thing for me. That means after the indecision, the market kind of decided to go in that direction. You want to get in on the first strong movement. After that, there's a lot less decision, right? It's kind of, I always have an analogy of when you want to go for a run, right?
Mm-hmm.
Anybody, beginners who barely run or pros, they usually have a lot more energy in the beginning, right? So they give it that much more. And then they kind of maybe take a little break and they still have that little gump more to continue. But after a while, they get tired. So the market does the same thing. After a decision has been made, there's a lot more power in it. And then maybe there's a little retracement, a little breather to see what's going on, and then it's a continuation, or maybe not. So you want to be in that first powerful movement. That's how I like it, and that's usually the highest probability trades as well.
Do you count Elliott waves, or how do you find that, or is this just a pattern that you kind of feel?
No, so I am very simplistic with my indicators. I only use the EMA, the exponential moving average, for 52 weeks, and MACDs. I love my MACDs. So, and price action. Price action really is really all you really need, but that EMA line is really great to have as like where you're standing from to take your trades from.
Mm-hmm.
But I really enjoy like reversal patterns. If I start to see double tops, double bottoms, triple, whatever, and then there's divergence with my MACDs, it's almost 90% probability that it's going to change direction or go into indecision. So you never want to be in anything like that, because when it's indecision, I think a lot of traders want to predict what the market is going to do. You'll never predict it, no matter what you'll do, right? So all you could do is read what the market is telling you. At the moment, it's telling you, you know what, it's indecision. You shouldn't go there. And the market tells you these things, right?
Mm-hmm.
So us as traders, we need to respect that. So that's what I follow. If I see those kinds of things, I just stay out. I don't even come near it. Yeah, basically that's what I use. So
Gotcha.
Nothing else.
Do you remember your
basic.
Do you remember your MACD settings? Like, is it 1226 or what?
Yeah, 12. Oh, I don't have it in front of me. 1226.9, I think. I don't have it right in front of me, but
yes,
okay. I'm pretty sure it's 1226.9. Yes.
Because you mentioned divergence.
So I really, yes, I love divergence. So for instance, when I see divergence, I stay out. So in the beginning, like I was saying, beginning of a new move or a new trend, the MACDs will show you their strength. And if it's a very tiny retracement on the MACDs, I really like it when they go above the 0.3 if it's going up, or negative 0.3 going down, right? If it's above that and it retraces barely touching that, and retraces to my EMA line, that's a really strong indicator of a good trade. So I would be already order waiting, sitting there. If it doesn't fill it, so such is life. There's always another trade coming. So yeah, that's kind of exactly what I look at the MACDs, the strength of it, the divergence, the retracements on the MACDs.
Do you normally use stop limit orders to get in, or limit buys? Or
both, because it depends if you're going long or if you're going short, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I always have my profit and my stop always together, and I do 1-to-1 ratio. If to start with, But if I go in with more than one contract, once I hit the first target, which is usually one contract, I immediately move my stops to break even. So at this point, I cannot lose anything. And then if it continues on to my second target, great. And if not, then I break even. The only thing I really lose on that second or third or fourth, whatever contract I have, just the commission, not the actual, nothing else.
Oh, okay. I got you. So 1-to-1, I like that. I mean, because you'll normally find that if you kind of generally time the market relatively okay based on, whatever it is you're looking at, most people rarely get into a trade in just absolutely the wrong time. Like they'll make a little bit of money at some point. So having that 1-to-1 ratio can make sense in a lot of certain situations. I do that. I'll find myself doing that a lot when I'm doing equities as well. When you're looking at the E-minis, how do you determine your risk? Is that like a dollar amount, a contract amount? Is it the same time every time? How's that approached?
It's 1 point. I go in for everything with 1 point, so it's $50 per contract. Yeah, so that's what I just start with at this point. That's kind of another thing that when I first began, oh my God, there's so many accounts that I've completely killed because of, I think there's too much pressure from like academies to go for the really big targets. Most likely they're not even going for the big targets, the teachers themselves. But when you're learning this, and it's, for you to go for a big target, you need to have a bigger risk, right? So and normally to go for the bigger targets, you will have a lot of retracements in between, which makes it for me super stressful. So for instance, when I started, it was like 2-to-1, right? So 2 points to 1 point of loss, which was a little bit more, actually. It was like 5 ticks. So, I mean, it kind of makes sense, but getting to the 2 points is a real stretch. It's, there's a lot of in between retracements. So I was like, let me just try the 1-to-1. Like 1 point, I'm okay with the $50, loss if everything is in my green valid trade setup. And I just found that the more you hit those smaller targets, the more confidence you develop in yourself, right? In trading, I'm sure you know this, money is one thing, but your emotional capital is so much more important. And if your emotional capital is getting drained because you're constantly hitting that stop instead of the target, it doesn't matter what you're going for. You're just feeling crappy about yourself and everything you do. So that's when I started to realize, wait, if I go for the smaller targets, I feel more confident. I could go in another trade, and I just enjoyed it more. I had more fun, and I felt more confident, not only in my trading, but in life, because if you leave from a losing day, you're just, you're not happy. Yeah. You're not happy. And it's more not about how much money you lost. It's your emotional capital that's really drained, Well,
I mean, so as you're mentioning it, you're saying you're kind of talking about being in those trades for that amount of time. Do you walk away? Are you watching it? How do you control your emotions and your stress level?
Oh, it's super hard. So I tend to walk away, but like when I don't hear it fast enough, like within 3 or 5 minutes, I definitely get back to the table, because sometimes it can go into that consolidation and indecision on a very micro level, and that's when I also could come up and decide, all right, do I just want to get 1 tick profit and get out and just wait for a better trade, or I do just let it sit through? So, yeah, emotions, you're really battling, It's like you're on the battling zone every time you get there. It's like a war zone. So, yeah, I really like to walk away for the first 5 minutes and just figure something out. Those 5 minutes could feel very long because I'm such a micro trader, for scalping. It's different than if I decided to go in and just leave it for like the next day, like what you do, like your setups are a little bit different structured because you go to sleep. And that's cool. That's a different mindset as well.
I agree. Do you ever trade overnight, or is it, like probably not?
No, I've never done that. I'll be really honest with you. I've never done that. I should look into that because that could be really fun. It's much slower. So obviously, that it takes much longer to get there as well. No, I've never done it. Not for futures.
Yeah. When I do it, it's at this point, I've never done more than 3 contracts. I'm still just kind of tipping my toe in the water, but my risk is usually like $500. So I don't, if I lose, that's kind of my loss. But overall, my goal is just to have a nice kind of, like you said, I do a little bit of a tighter, wider stop. I'm a little bit more patient. I just kind of wait it out and go, okay, whatever. But with size, you're absolutely correct. I mean, these ticks, I mean, they move. It moves so frequently, so much, so nicely. Are you more of a perma bear, perma bull, or do you not care?
Oh, totally don't care. I actually believe that people make more money on the shorting side when the market is trending down. It just seems to go faster.
Mm-hmm.
But it really doesn't matter. It really does not matter. It literally is what the market is telling me at that moment.
Yeah.
So whatever, if it's been stuck in a consolidation sideways movement for a long time and it finally breaks through to whatever side, awesome. Yeah, no, I don't. Not for futures. For stocks, again, I don't day trade stocks, but for investments, you always go long, right? It's just something people do. But however, like what I was saying yesterday, when I started to look at that, I'm like, a lot of them I was noticing really strong signs for shorts. And I'm like, yeah, I might actually even consider going in shorting some of these, more of a swing trade. Like some of them will take a couple of weeks. So I would consider that, but no, I don't consider anything like that.
No, valid.
So, yeah, whatever. It's never entering a side market. That is for sure. Like never. Like that, I just don't even go near that.
Gotcha. What time do you start your trading day? Is there a specific time that you'll start trading?
Well, market open is 9:30 usually, and then I always check what is it, Forex Factory? I think forexfactory.com.
Yep.
It's so I see what news is coming up, right? So there's, the high alert kind, which is like the red, and then there's the orange. So I normally stay out of that time zone. Normally news like that is from 9:45 till 10:15, 10:30. So if there's news that day, I don't touch that market until I see that the erratic behavior of the news kind of goes away. So then I would be, like 10:45, 11, maybe for like an hour. If there's no news, normally from 9:30 to 10, I don't, because it's usually, I call it the amateur hour. There's just a lot of crazy, people getting in and out for no reason. And then there's lunch, from like 12 to like 1:30. It's pretty slow. And then I would go back in like around 1:32 to like 3:30. Because again, 3:30 to 4, it's another amateur hour. People are either dying to get out of their bad trades or whatever, like it's more irrational behavior than, not that it's ever rational, right?
Yeah, right.
But it's less irrational. Yeah, and then if it's FOMC days, which I think is once a month, that's usually a Wednesday. You just got to find out if it's that day. So that's just totally crazy behavior. And then contract rollover days, they're usually really bad. So I don't recommend people coming near the market, except maybe if you really want to do something, stay in paper money, because contract rollover days are kind of complicated.
Makes sense. Yeah, it's valid. I mean, like I said, sometimes just staying away, knowing when not to trade can be your best trades, right?
Oh, absolutely. It's just as much of a decision as getting into a trade.
Mm-hmm. You're absolutely correct. What broker do you use for your trading?
So I use the platform Ninja Trader. I think it's the best one for futures.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely not they don't even do equities. I think they just started Forex. If you do equities, like now, when I start now, I use Thinkorswim. But so when I started with Ninja Trader, they didn't have a brokerage, and futures was with them. Not anymore. I'm a grandfathered client, but you can't go with them anymore. However, Ninja Trader now has a broker, and because they focus on futures, if any of the listeners, you guys want to do futures, they simply give the best commissions, right? Mm-hmm. So in futures, it doesn't work like equities. It's not when you go in, you pay a certain amount, and you get out, you pay a certain amount. It's just a round trip overall number. And it's like around $4, $4.50 per round trip, meaning in and out.
Interesting.
It's the best one.
So any amount of contracts, it would just be $4.50?
Each.
Gotcha.
No, it's each. Right, each contract. So, but Thinkorswim also, you can do futures on there. I don't really like their platform interface for futures, but their commissions are like $8 round trip. So it's really a big deal, So if any of you guys are interested in futures, go check out Ninja Trader, especially for the brokerage aspect of it. It's just a much better commission rate.
Yeah, I've used Ninja Trader before, and it is quite useful. And I also, have you ever heard of the company Top Step Trader?
Yes, I actually just heard of them recently. I don't know much about them, so I can't give
Gotcha.
much information on that, but I have heard about them,
Yeah, I was just
like in a
mentioning.
positive way.
Yeah, they're good company, but they work with NinjaTrader is one of the platforms that they also kind of sync up with. That if someone wants to use their platform, they can still use NinjaTrader and still trade through their combine or simulator, which is nice. But yeah, NinjaTrader is used to be. It's been around for a while, actually. Now that I'm thinking about it, I think it's been around like 10 years.
Yeah, the software's been around. Yeah, but their brokers, I think they just opened like 4 years ago.
Hmm.
That part of it's completely separate. They actually don't like to, like if I'm talking to my tech guy from NinjaTrader, he will never tell me anything about the broker. He'll send me to the broker. So, but yeah, they're under the same roof, but separate departments, I guess you could call it.
Now, with the E-minis, do you ever trade? I'm assuming the answer is no, but do you ever trade futures on the future options on the futures?
No, I just do straight up the ES Mini and nothing more.
Got it. I figured. Yeah, that was a good question. So, what's as far as this particular move in the market right now? With the whole hitting all-time highs recently, do you have any fun thoughts on where we might go, or any opinions?
It's interesting because several years ago, it was also at all-time highs. And I was like, it's got to retrace. It's got to correct. The market cannot continue doing this. This is when I thought that I could predict what the market is going to do.
Yeah.
And there's no way, So all I kept on looking for was shorting, figuring out when is it going to happen. And every time there was like a little retracement for a short, I was in, and it wasn't. It was just a regular retracement. So I got really burned wanting to forecast what will happen.
Yeah.
You know what? The market is at an all-time high. It might retrace for sure. I'm not going to be like, oh, the end of the world is coming, which is a lot of people are saying whenever anything, there's so many opinions.
Agreed.
I just really listen to what the market is telling me in that moment. And that actually makes it nice when it's so micro, right? Like if I was looking at a long term, like longer, probably it would be more, I would consider more, okay, when is it about to start correcting? But for short term, you could have, I call overall movements, which is like the full trend, and then immediate movement, which is a very small trend that happens, which is just a bigger retracement of the overall thing, but it's a good enough trend to at least put in one trade.
Yeah.
Right. And then it could just go back up or go down, whatever way. I personally, because I'm so micro, I don't listen.
Yeah,
to what's going to happen in the future. Yeah.
Makes very lot of sense. How many trades do you take on average a day?
2, 3 at most. I usually like to be in only for like an hour and a half. Your mind can only really handle such high, because I'm sitting there completely high, full on. I don't like walk away and just let it go. So it's very high performance. So I'm only about an hour and a half, 2 max. I mean, that's like I'm really drained after 2. So yeah, 1 to 1.5 hours a day.
Got it. Okay.
So that allows me like between 1 to 3 trades. Depends on how the market is moving.
Yeah. No, that's. I think you're right. I mean, Are there any good books about that decision-making capabilities that you're aware of? Because it's really an interesting thing. I've heard a lot of professional traders say that, where they mention that your brain can only handle, X amount of specifically adequate, well-timed, well-organized decisions in a day.
I kind of came up with that one on my own. I read, obviously, I think like the cliche book is, the Trading in the Zone, which is a great book. But then what I've noticed is trading isn't all about trading. It's so much about who you are. And it actually made me a much more spiritual person, as in becoming really mindful, because, I didn't even know what that word meant until like I started trading. And you have to be so mindful. You have to be so in that moment. And also really the whole FOMO thing, right? Fear of missing out. Like, when I first started trading, I was over trading. I was putting in thousands of trades. I mean, I was losing more on commissions than actual profits. And then I don't know how it was, but I remember I came up with this analogy. Wait, if I was a hunter, and I don't condone hunting, but if you imagine yourself as a hunter, right, like a big game hunter, you go out, you're not going to go for every little prairie rat. You're going for the big big ones, right? So it's the same thing. Like instead of going for the little tiny trades, okay, I'm just going to wait for like the really good ones, the ones that I feel really confident with, that I have had all this back testing with, and then it becomes a game of patience, right? And patience is really a huge thing in trading because you just have to be patient enough. And that's when and at that point I'm just like, sometimes it's just better to just hang out. And that's the mindfulness of it, just enjoying what the market is doing.
So other than Trading in the Zone, have you read any other good books that were like revolutionary that you would suggest?
Oh my God, there's so many. Psycho-Cybernetics is a great book.
Heard good things about that.
What's the name of that book? I'm seeing it right now. Obstacle is the Way, another fabulous book. And I think that really woke me up to realizing that I was my own obstacle with the market. Oh my gosh, so many. First of all, I think Loving What Is by Brian, I think her name is Byron Katie. That one, and Power of Now. I think they should just be mandatory books for everyone to read, even though it doesn't have much to do with trading, but they're amazing. There's so many books. I can't even think of them at the moment. I really like Grant Cardone. I don't know if you've heard of him. He has nothing to do whatsoever with trading, but just his whole mentality. I think 10X and Be Obsessed or Be Average, those books just put you in the right mind frame for just being really great. Yeah, so those types of books have done a lot more for me than trading books. I don't really like trading books because then trading books, they like to add in their opinion, and it kind of takes it away from you, right? There's a million ways to trade and a million traders. That's why I like Trading in the Zone. He doesn't actually talk about the trading process as much as the zone that your mind is in.
Got it. I love it. I have read most of those, but I have not read Obstacles in the Way or Loving What Is. I'm putting those on my list right now.
Oh, she'll blow your mind. Once you read Loving What Is, your whole life will change.
I'm ready.
It's really that great. Yeah.
I am ready. I love.
Yeah, she's great. She's great.
Okay. I'm gonna check that out because that's. I actually kind of echo your sentiments on that. I have a lot of people that ask me, hey man, what's the best trading book to read? And it's like I've read a lot of trading books, and you're right. Like they are. I think one day one of my goals would be to write an exciting trading book that's good.
Yeah.
One that maybe makes you smile or laugh, because that's kind of rare. Unless it's like reminiscence of a stock operator or something like that. But there's a few that like where are the customers' yachts. There's a few that are good, but like you mentioned, most of them, the mindset is really the key to trading, because if you have proper mindset, then you'll have a proper approach to the market. It's not necessarily, hey, you should focus on this candlestick pattern and make money. It's just understanding yourself, and then from there, getting a little bit more of a grip on it. Like Power of Now, that's the one that oh boy, that gave me a little bit of a shake. That was a good one.
Yeah So I think those books should be mandatory. Do you have children?
I do not have any children. Nope. I'm 30.
Oh, okay.
So no kids yet.
Oh, it's because you mentioned your wife. You're married though, right?
I have a fiance.
Your wife or no?
Yes, but.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I thought you said wife. Oh, okay. Well, my kids. I personally believe, unfortunately, these books are not really kid-friendly voice, but I think they should be mandatory in schools. Not Huckleberry Finn, but The Power of Now and Loving What Is. Like those books are really going to do something good for you. Huck Finn, yeah, okay, whatever.
I kind of agree. Yeah. When I was in school, I'm reading, To Kill a Mockingbird, which, good book, but yeah, there's just so many of these. I'm reading them, but after I get out of school, there's just so much other books that I never had heard of before. Like Richest Man in Babylon. Like, how do you not have that in school? And it's just so shocking.
Yeah, those types of books, exactly.
Yeah.
No, they're shocking. The whole school system is shocking, but that's a whole other conversation.
Don't get me started on that one.
Yeah.
I will go on that path.
Yeah, for sure.
Let's only ask you this question, Marina. If your kids were like, hey, I don't want to go to college, I just want to trade full time, what's your answer on that?
Oh, I would definitely. I'm not very pro university. I think it's a big scam of a business. I would say go for it, but you can't do it unless you have the proper mindset and the proper education. So it doesn't have to be university, but you definitely have to be educated. You can't, just putting money into the market. I call it donating money to the market. That's just dumb. I'd be, hey, all over it, go for it. But just before you do that, make sure you are properly educated and prepared mentally.
I love that. Yep. Couldn't agree more. Got to get that information, got to get that knowledge down. So when you're doing your long-term trading, like your stocks, I think you mentioned that you do that through Thinkorswim or TD Ameritrade. How do you pick your long-term companies?
At this point, I really enjoy, it's more about the CEOs for me at this point. And not necessarily, I guess a lot of it, the CEOs. Like, I really believe in some people, right? And granted, they have their issues for sure, and who knows if they're going to die. That's not funny at all, but it's the truth, and that really affects the companies. So I'm going for like the bigger companies now. I did like 5 years ago, I went in a lot for the income companies, which is dividends. And I'll be honest with you, a lot of them are really bad. They're like my big dogs. But then I started to really focus on the CEOs, the cliche ones, Jeff Bezos, Mark Zuckerberg, Tim Cook, they're great, man. You see it. They're so committed to what they're doing that why wouldn't you want, and then I was into Elon Musk, and I still think he's completely brilliant, but he's becoming a little bit, out there. And it's becoming very evident with Tesla, especially, I haven't looked at the other ones by him. I just look at that, you always put your trust in people, not so much the entire company, but as in the people that are running it, right, at the time. So that's what at the moment, that's what I do. I'm looking more at it. But then again, I really, really love disruptive companies. I just got into Lyft. Pinterest isn't super disruptive, but it's been around for a while, pretty much. But yeah, I'm just waiting at the edge of my seat. I have some money put away just to get into the Uber IPO. Of course, it's going to go bad in the beginning. It's a disruptive company, but they're taking over.
Yeah.
So I really look at that. And Uber does not have a good reputation, but Uber, for their CEOs, so that's the example that's outside of my rule, I guess. It's not a rule technically, but come on, Uber is so disruptive. There's no going back. There's never going back. You can never go back and Uber not exist anymore. You know what I mean? So it's only going to go up.
Yeah.
So that's kind of, and Airbnb is the other one. I think Airbnb isn't coming out. It's here. It's in a year. So Uber is supposedly, so those are what I'm looking for a lot.
Can't wait for Airbnb. Totally agree.
So those are the ones that I'm kind of going in for.
I think my two biggest awaited ones are probably, Uber, yes, I think it's going to do pretty much what Lyft did, but I think you're correct. They'll open and just kind of hemorrhage for a while, and then eventually, no question, go higher. Not even arguing that at all. And Pinterest, sure, it's cool, it's fun. They're gonna make money. They have a very specific market. I think they're kind of more of a buyout ready. Something like Etsy could buy them out, or Walmart, or maybe even Amazon potentially, or one of those boutique kind of companies. But Stripe is whenever they start IPOing, that's another online payment processor.
Oh, I love them. Yes, I only use them for my. Oh, I didn't realize they're coming out.
Yeah, they're talking about
it. That's another one.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
they're discussing it, but I think it's going to happen. I think it's just kind of they're just waiting on a few things, and because you probably use that for a lot of your checkouts and online revenue and things.
Absolutely.
What's your thoughts on Shopify, Wix, Square? Any opinion on those?
No, I use WordPress. Yeah. I'm pretty basic. Yeah, and I have Zippy courses for my membership site for my courses, for the trading courses, and it attaches to Stripe. It's just I like to keep things really simple. I tried Shopify. The web, it's too much for me to understand. And Wix, at this point, I don't want to learn a new one. I'm pretty good with WordPress. But
did you build your website yourself? We're looking at it right now.
I have a guy. I have somebody that helps me.
Okay.
Do it. Yeah. I can't be bothered with that.
That's okay. I know zero
Yeah.
online building.
But I always say, I've been online for over a decade because of my travel site as well. And people are like, oh, so know so much about websites. I'm like, when you move into a house, like if you're a store owner, when you open up your shop, do you really care how your plumbing works? No, you hire a plumber. I hire a web guy. Like people don't get that. You don't have to know how your plumbing works to run a physical business. It's the same with a website.
What's your traveling website?
It's Travel Experta, like travel expert with an A.
.com.
Yeah.
All right. Cool. Pulling that up right now. So again, I know you can't see this, but you'll be able to at the in the recording. But very nice.
Okay.
Check that out because I also equally love traveling. I think that's wonderful.
Oh, good.
The whole traveling, day trading. I mean, that is a career choice for people. I'm not in the future now, but I'm just saying, like, going forward, I think that's just an obvious thing for people to kind of consider as a possibility,
yes,
as a choice,
Yes. And so location independent and not time consuming. The only time consuming is in the beginning when you're learning, but that's always like that. We spend 4 or 5 or 12 years in university, right?
Mm-hmm.
This requires half a year of really learning. Yeah, absolutely. I feel the same exact way.
So before we go, one main last question. Tell me your worst trade of all time, if you can remember it. I'm sure you
I still remember it.
Yeah.
Yes, it was my biggest breakdown. And through that, I had my biggest breakthrough, I guess. It was April 5 years ago. I remember because afterwards I was on the ground, just completely defeated. And my husband standing over me telling me, why are you continuing this? And I'm like, I have no idea, but I just can't stop. I just went into a trade, and this is what I was saying, like, new traders just don't believe in stops. And I'm like, even though I was taught, I was like, no, it will turn around. I had my stop in, but it just kept on going the wrong way. And all I kept on doing was putting in more contracts because at this point I was looking at thousands of dollars of losses. And I just removed the stop saying, no, it's got to turn. And it didn't. It wiped out my entire account. I lost over $4,000 within 20 minutes. It was horrendous. And I was going for a half a point win at that point, but I prepared myself to go, but I permitted myself to lose $4,000. So the mentality of traders it's incredible. We will sometimes go for such a small profit, but permit ourselves to lose so much because we believe it's this ego in us fighting that if we are right, it's got to go the direction we want it in. And that was my biggest wake-up call. And that was like, oh my God, the market is going to do what it's going to do. I cannot predict it. But after that wasn't my first loss, that big of a loss. This was my second. It was just like my emotional capital was done after that. And that's kind of when it was definitely the worst. But then again, it was my best because that's when I really reevaluated everything and realized, first of all, we could simplify it a lot more. I removed half of my indicators, which, makes you go into this analysis, whatever. And just started to believe in the smaller profits and totally believe in the stop loss. Like, I don't move it at all. Even if it bounces off, stops me out, and then goes in my direction, I'm like, you know what? I made that commitment. I made that decision. Yeah. Oh, it was bad. It was really bad. It wasn't even about the $4,000. It was my emotional capital. It was gone. It was terrible. It took me days to recover from that.
Interesting. Yeah, I really like that term, emotional capital. I think some other people have used it before, but it's a good reminder because that's really all we have, right? Health is our biggest wealth. If we drain ourselves and spend all this energy and time and just tax our bodies to the max trying to get this trading thing down, then it probably should be kind of reevaluated a little bit.
Yes. Oh, absolutely.
Because this should be easy.
Step back.
Yeah. That's the thing.
Yeah. I don't know, easy, but definitely simple. It could be so much simpler. Like, I only have one chart. That's another thing with futures. You don't need to have these multiple charts. That's really nice about futures. One chart, you don't have to do any research. There's, no waking up at 4 a.m. to study everything that's about to happen. It's pure technicals. But it's simple. I have two indicators, and I removed like more than half back when that all happened. And that's kind of when my journey, I was like reborn, I guess, and realized it can be simple. It doesn't have to be complicated.
Bingo. I love it. We'll end on that note. Thank you so much, Marina, for your time and for sharing.
Oh, thank you so much.
This information with us. Yeah, my pleasure. And again, I look forward to chatting with you more on Instagram. Hit me up anytime, and I will send you a copy of this recording pretty much in a few minutes.
Awesome. Well, thank you, and have a great day.
My pleasure.
And thanks, everybody. Well. Bye.
Bye. Ladies and gentlemen, another trader out there in the world. This is Maria Villatoro. So yeah, I love it. Good stuff. Always like hearing what other people do in the markets and just kind of getting their information, their thoughts, their opinions, their viewpoints, their expressions, their history, taking some small tidbits, learning, growing, and enriching lives together. Arabia says, a woman after my own heart. That's right. Absolutely. Keep it simple, folks. That is a great takeaway from that interview. And for those who are watching this interview from wherever you are watching it in the world, thank you for being a part of Real Life Trading. Thank you for listening. Thanks for helping me enrich lives. It's an amazing time to be alive. So I will end with that. Have a wonderful rest of your Wednesday. It's been an incredible Wednesday, spelled with an I, here at Real Life Trading. You rock, folks. And until then, love life, live life, and trade it.